All right, welcome to the Raw Christian Men's Podcast, where we tackle the topics that are most important to Christian men. On this episode, we're discussing biblical masculinity and the emasculation of the church. So today, my name is Brad Martin. Welcome to the podcast, and we'll go ahead and introduce everybody.
Kirby Pavey.
Aaron Willison.
I'm Luke Rude.
All right, thank you guys for coming out and recording tonight. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
So we'll just jump right in. So I want to go ahead and get your guys' definition, like your own personal definition of what you think when you hear biblical masculinity.
Man, that's tough. I mean, when you look in the Bible, there's a lot of great figures. You know, David and Goliath and King Solomon, good, bad, otherwise. But, you know, you can dig as deep into that as you want. But to me, it's not popular. It's not, I don't know, I guess, do you have anything to expand on that, Kirby? Because to me, it's tough to unpack.
Well, for me, biblical masculinity is like basically how we conduct ourselves in Christ-likeness, like the things we are called to do and act and behave.
Right.
Like despite what the world and the culture is pushing us or trying to influence us to be.
Right, and that's where I feel like you can get a lot of flack
Oh yeah, it's nothing.
for trying to live that way because it isn't popular and it's not easy. It's a conscious decision to kind of put your nose to the ground.
Self-surrender.
So, Luke, what do you think when you hear biblical masculinity, especially with you being more of the younger generation? And like for me, being my age, my definition of masculinity and what today's culture considers masculinity are two drastically different things. With you being younger, like what would you consider when you hear biblical masculinity?
When I think of biblical masculinity, I kind of think of, you know, how back then you had your, like Aaron said, your Davids and Goliaths and stuff. Kind of think of those people like, and how you had one man in the house and all that. Whereas today, masculinity is considered drastically different than what it was back then.
Almost negative,
Yes.
some could argue.
And I'm one of those people I'm probably considered old school for being my age. It's 21. I feel like people think I have a different view on masculinity and how it is today compared to how other people do. Who think masculinity is, I get my hair done and stuff like that. Whereas today I think masculinity is being in a field doing what Aaron does.
I appreciate that, but I don't know if that quite falls
It was
under.
just the first thing that popped in my head.
And I guess for me, like when I'm thinking of masculinity, and from when my time growing up is, I mean, you think of like a man's man.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily like in today's day and age, you have the quote unquote toxic masculinity, which I hate that toxic, because if you show any kind of masculinity, they want to say it's toxic and they want to get rid of it. And it's stupid. You need masculinity, but there's a difference between, and I think I'm going to harp on this later on, but there's a difference between being masculine and just being an a-hole.
Yeah.
And there's too many people that convolute the two. Like they want to lump the two together. And in my mind, it's a man's man, whereas like it's a strong role model. It's a strong both physical and mental appearance, like in the home and outside the home. It's the biggest thing is just being a strong role model for not just their children, but like the children within their family and outside of their family as well.
And being a man of integrity.
There's a lot in my mind that goes into masculinity, and as far as like not just strength, but like like I said, integrity.
It's not about how much money you make or what sport car you have or how many partners you've had as the culture. Like those are things.
Oh yeah.
That
out there
add points to some, but from the biblical perspective, like it's a completely different set of things that make a man. Like a man is meek and he's loving and he's nurturing, and like he has to be a man of integrity. He needs to be a protector. He needs to be self-controlled, humble, and he needs to be obedient to God and put God first. And a man that can lead a life obedient to God and a servant to his family is a man's man, or it's a biblical man.
See, I think that is a great definition as far as like biblical masculinity. So, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there.
I'd also, sorry,
No, you're good.
I do want to add a point to when you said a role model. Kind of made me think of how a good biblical man is like a role model for his children.
Yes.
Even though I don't have any, I think a good masculine man, in my opinion, is a great role model for his children.
And I think that's one of the biggest areas that we're falling short in society today is that, and I would even blame it on modern day feminism. I mean, and that's separate. That's separate from like classical feminism.
Right.
What I would consider classical feminism was, you do want to empower the women, and you do want to make sure that they're not being taken advantage of, and that they're able to, what I mean.
Well, and I mean, in the Bible, it clearly states a good woman is more valuable than rubies.
Yes.
So, I mean, as well as we talk about biblical masculinity, it's almost like, sometimes the femininity of it gets discredited, whereas in the scripture, it is very well represented, and we have a good outline of what it means to be a woman and how to treat her.
Yeah.
That rolls right into the masculinity. And I think when Kirby said meek and obedient earlier, I think that's something we can really expound on.
And
because Jesus always said, turn the other cheek. And it's so, sometimes anymore when we think masculinity, it's like, oh, eye for an eye.
Yeah.
That guy's not one to be messed with.
Yeah.
You're not gonna fool around with that guy, but it's really, you're gonna take it and not give it back and show grace.
And going back to the whole, like the feminism part of it, like the modern wave feminism today is like, it's not just empowering the women, it is villainizing and demonizing the manliness, the masculinity side of it. So much that they want to emasculate men and make them as feminine as possible. And if you show any sign of masculinity, that goes back to that toxic masculinity, and that you are a threat, and all that. Sure. I mean, it's just like recently everybody's doing that whole trend of like, oh, would you rather be in the woods with a man or with a bear? And all these women are choosing bear.
Well,
I think that goes to say like how biblically, like man and woman is supposed to become one, and and we're called to be a servant and to love our wives as Jesus loved the church.
Yes.
And biblically speaking, like, well, for me personally, like, I do a lot, and I try to be the protector and the provider, but like, if I didn't have her, she is, for I don't know how to put it, like in the worldly term.
You take the steps,
like
she guides it.
Yeah, like she's there. She's like not my foundation, but she's there for me for like when I'm not feeling it or I'm not up to snuff. Like she's there to be like, you need to get back on it. Like you need to get there. Like she's there to help encourage me, and like, I mean, she lifts me up. She plays a crucial, important role in me trying to be the leader I'm called to be.
She supports you basically.
Yeah, she plays a very important supporting role.
So, moving on, like just some examples that I found as far as people in the Bible that I would say demonstrated what you can, our definition of, biblical masculinity. So you have Joshua from the Old Testament. I mean, he was a successor to Moses, in one of the first commanders of the Israelite army. I mean, when you could look at that and say, well, yeah, that would be like a man's man, or like classical masculine man, like very strong. He was a leader both on and off the battlefield. You have David, obviously, defeated Goliath, which was, I was listening to somebody, they were talking about how big David was, like truly. And like, because in the Bible, it gives him the dimensions, like, but in cubits and spans and stuff, but it ended up being like essentially like 9.5 feet tall. I mean, a classic giant.
Yeah,
I know a guy like that.
But I mean, David, this meek shepherd boy, but showing no fear, put his trust in God, was able to step up and be one of like the most fierce warriors at the time.
See, and I think we all kind of know somebody like David. You know what I mean? Like they're not to be walked on, but they're also not imposing their will.
Yeah. They don't
It's
come
like
off
I'm
threatening.
here, and this is what I'm here to do, and I'm going to do that regardless of what you think. But at the same time, he's not like coming after you,
Yeah.
and that's what I mean. I think that perfectly sums it up.
Yeah. And then you got like Nehemiah, you know, after the fall of the wall of Jerusalem, you know, he came back and helped supervise the rebuilding of the wall and brought that generation of the Israelites back to God
While facing opposition the entire way.
the entire time.
Oh,
and
writing letters.
and then you more like toward the New Testament, you have I would say all the apostles.
Yeah.
I mean,
Undeniable.
yeah, I mean, each one of them, they're putting their faith in God, putting their faith in Jesus. I mean, did all these guys stumble and fall and, you know, fall short and fail? Yes.
Over and over and over.
But the characteristics that they would displayed, I think, would be like considered classic masculinity in today's day and age. So I think they're great examples of what biblical masculinity should look like. So for talking about those examples of like biblical masculinity, I have like boldness, you know, each one of those people, they spoke God's truth from love, regardless of what the consequences might be. They're being bold for Christ. Fearlessness. Man's fear is rooted in sin, while Jesus held righteous reverence for God. So examples of that would be 1 John 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. And then Jesus was able to face the devil, cast out demons, rebuke religious leaders, and face death on the cross. So his fearlessness came from his perfect communion with God. And sacrificial love. And Jesus died on the cross for mankind's sins, where he said, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. That was John 10:11. He was masculine, or it's a masculine desire to protect is stemmed from love. And there's a quote that I found from G.K. Chesterton. He said, a true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him. So that's that sacrificial love.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are all examples of perfect examples of like masculinity, but those are all attributes that Jesus displayed while he was here on earth. So I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, let's unpack that a little bit. Like, I mean, before us, we have all these great examples, and obviously, you know, we learn about them on Sunday in Bible study and this and that. But I mean, how does that look in your life? Like,
Well, none of it's easy, and it doesn't come without effort. And I mean, that's part of remembering who you're doing it for, being submissive to the Lord, and trusting God's going to empower you to accomplish anything, which is part of that boldness, to be able to do what God calls you to do, regardless of the consequences. And I mean, you can look around you, even 2,000 years ago, there were consequences. Then, like it was death. Now, the mere consequence is like
basically nothing.
Yeah, nothing in comparison.
I mean, you know,
You may feel a
eternal
little
damnation in the hellfires, but you know, in our society, it's the new norm.
Yeah, you're going to get dirty looks, or people are going to be upset with you and say things about you. But I mean, it's nothing in comparison to what, you know, the apostles had to go through, and those who followed after them. I mean, maybe you can go in a little bit deeper on that.
See, I don't know about you guys, but like, I mean, I consider myself fairly masculine. You know, I consider myself old school.
And you wear a camo hat, I think.
I consider myself fairly masculine, but looking at what I consider like the perfect examples of biblical masculinity, I fall short on every single one of these.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good preface. This with none of us are perfect or even remotely perfect, but we're trying.
Yeah.
So don't take this as we're going to tell you how great we are. We all know we're not.
No.
Sorry, Carrie.
No.
You're on a good thought there.
Like a buddy of mine always says, if everything's perfect, what's the point in living?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like, I just looking down the list. I mean, boldness. I mean, I can consider myself bold at times, but like bold for Christ. I mean, I have that little inner voice that kind of says like, hey, you know, throttle it back a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to offend anybody.
Well, and people, that's not cool.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
And I'm getting better at it, and I'm something I'm well aware of, and I'm trying to make myself get better at it. But I definitely see myself falling short constantly on being bold. Like I want to be bold more often, but yeah, I mean, like fearlessness. Something like this, like just starting up a podcast. Like I've had this. I would say I was kind of weighed on me for a while, and where like I had the idea, and then I brought it up to somebody, and like, well, I've been thinking about that exact same thing, and then talking to other people. Well, I've been thinking about this exact same thing.
and then, hey, can you show up last minute? It's like, yeah, man.
And then like it's at that point, you're like, well, it's a God thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so it's to me something like this. I mean, this area, we've been kind of trying to put this together for the last 6 months, and that was after we found out that multiple people had ideas of starting a podcast. So when you find out that there's that much interest and that it really is going to be a God thing, and like, how long was I putting it off before that? Because I was like, well, this is so far out of my comfort zone. It's not even fun.
I'm right there with you. Because that's the same thing. Like, you guys know, I like to talk about Dr. Charles Stanley a lot, but one of the things I took away from him that he told me is to do the things that make you uncomfortable. And now, as I've been growing in faith,
Yeah.
I died to myself, my old self, and I've been raised new. And so now I have my old habits that are no longer, I'm trying to develop new habits, and these new habits are uncomfortable because this is the way I used to never walk before. And so now when something new like this podcast, for instance, pops up, extremely uncomfortable, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because everything that I have done in the pursuit of God and his will has always led to something better, and there's been blessings upon blessings afterwards, and different in ways I would have never imagined or thought of. So yeah, it's like, and that's part of being courageous, you know, like overcoming that fear and putting trust that God's going to put the words in your mouth.
You were thinking about, or you were talking about this in Sunday school, wasn't it? About just saying yes.
Oh, well, that's what I was gonna say. I'm almost on the ladder, you guys, because I like to talk. I have a heck of a personality by some regards, good, bad, or otherwise. But I mean, I got asked to speak like my second week coming to church here. One of my old football coaches said, "Hey, you want to come talk at FCA?" And before that, 6 months before that, I was on the banquet team, and he asked me to speak. So I was like, okay. And it was back-to-back days. I'd never spoken before in my life. So I came down here in the gym and talked to 40 guys, and then I drove over to Kokomo and talked to like 70. So day one, all my coaches and guys that I grew up respecting, and then I actually go over to Kokomo. Same talk was prepared, and there was 2 teachers there that I really didn't get along with.
Yeah.
Like 100% made their life miserable when I was in high school. And my talk just, it wasn't even near the same as it was the day before, but God just used me to speak, and I inadvertently apologized to him, and it felt great.
Yeah.
But it was nothing I did. So after that happened, it's like Bill, our preacher's like, hey, you want to do a community thing. So, speaking, I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, I won't say no. But I guess where I struggle, I mean, I'm a farmer. I make hay, I have cattle, and mess around a little bit of everything. It's easy for me to say you need to, as men, we need to trust in God fully. We need to do this, do that, walk with him, give it all to him. Mm-hmm. Well, that's fine in theory, But at the same time, it's such a daunting time to farm right now. There's not a lot of ways around it without going in a lot of debt. And there's just so much unknown to it with where our markets are. And that's kind of where I'm struggling. It's like, I know that God's plan is a heck of a lot better than mine, but boy, it's real comfortable not having that land payment, not having that operating note, not having, put myself out there and put my family in financial ruin basically to achieve my dreams in agriculture. And it's really just that's where I struggle. It's so daunting, but I know it's there, but I know I need to give it to him. I just don't quite know how.
We keep
Bigger
progressing.
risk, bigger reward, or play it safe. It's kind of, I don't know. It's tough.
It's definitely tough. I mean, because you could kind of say that goes with like the worldly masculinity side of things, where like
I'm
for
a
the
man.
longest
I have
time
$3 million in debt.
Well, we're considered men. Like we're supposed to be the providers. We're supposed to be able to take care of our families and take care of ourselves. Which we, for the most part, most men have a good grasp on, but we don't want to relinquish that control.
Yeah.
Like we don't want to lose that control of our of our lives to where you want to give it up to God and say, you know what, your plan is going to be a lot better than mine.
Yeah.
I mean,
most men are not accustomed to surrender. It's
No, you
always
don't.
about what can I do or what can we do, like what can I get, what can I achieve, instead of like trusting God is already laid out, like in letting go of.
When I'm always like, dude, just show me a little bit, God. Like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Give me something. Give me a corner, Let me know what you're thinking so that way I know where to go.
That kind of ties into the biblical masculinity. Like the biblical part is trusting God and doing all of it, and the masculinity part is like the surrendering it and trusting Him that He'll make things right in the end.
yeah.
We're led by the Spirit.
I have a tendency of like, all right, here, God, you take it. And then as he's taking it, I'm like,
Well, hold on now. I can tweak this.
take it, but I'm not willing to let it go yet. And
Let me just hold on. Yeah.
like, well, hold on, maybe I could try it this way. No, yeah, go and take it. No, let me try it. No. All right.
Like we tend to only like let go of stuff is when we done broke ourselves, and then we're broken, and now that's when we want to go to God instead
funny
of
how
doing
that-
it like
100%.
And
it's
I think some of the outlines I sent to you guys for this future episodes, like we're going to talk about that, and it might be in the mental health episode. But so yeah, that's where I had
It's a good segue.
my true like surrender moment. Like you're broken down.
yeah.
And I just saw a Dave Ramsey clip today. It's like I knew God, or it's like I knew about God going up, but like I've truly like followed Him and surrendered to Him on the way down.
Yeah.
It's like because on the way up, when things are good,
Oh, yeah.
you can know Him, but like
Flying high.
things are good. It's you're not really willing to let go, control and stuff. When you're down, like when you're starting to hit rock bottom, I mean, like
Well, that's what you learn. Some of these things, like pride, is not necessarily a good manly quality because pride can lead you astray.
Well,
And-
there's types of pride.
Yeah, types of pride.
I don't want that to be misconstrued, but I'm with you.
Yeah, it's like it can let you become arrogant and boastful, and like, I guess it keeps you from being, at times in certain situations, it keeps you from being committed or surrendered to God, like who made this possible for you to do that. And
Well, yeah, because it's like He gives you all this, and you're like, "Oh, look at me!"
Yeah, no, I take credit.
Oh man, I'm the guy. I did this. When in all reality, He didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like He gives it to you to glorify Him.
Mm.
And I feel like if that part doesn't get achieved, boy, you're in for it. I mean, and farming is so raw. Because it's like, He doesn't bring the rain, you might not go another year.
yeah. And you talked about this in the beginning, and I'm glad you did because it's a perfect segue into now, like, as far as masculine or biblical masculinity, as far as qualities and following Christ, you specifically said each one of these, like you said, meekness, humility, patience, and integrity. Those are like 4 big ones that I would consider a biblically masculine man has to have if he wants to follow Christ. And when people, and we kind of talked about this the other, or Bill kind of talked about this the other day in church, but like as far as meekness, when people hear meek, they think real weak, shy, standoffish, and that's not what they were talking about when they refer to meekness during that time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you guys were aware of this, but like meekness is unbridled willfulness to submit in obedience and extreme danger. That's the definition from then. And where it comes from is, I believe they were the Romans during that time. They would go up into the mountains and find these wild horses. And what they would do is like, these were like the most wild, most powerful horses in the area. And they would take these horses and then they would break them, but not to the point to where like we think of being broken. Like they would just, where these horses would be submitting to the rider and the rider only, and trusted him completely, knew it that basically that rider was going to take care of them no matter what the circumstance it was. So these warriors would go up and they'd find these most powerful horses that they could find. And these horses were submitting to these warriors. And that's where the meekness that they're referring to in the Bible is like the meekness that these horses would show for these warriors that would go, they're being broken and they're submitting, but they're still like incredibly powerfully strong animals.
Yeah.
And they're not just, they're referring to just some weak person that doesn't want to do anything or very standoffish, very shy. It's a powerful surrender. Like you're surrendering, but you're surrendering for a good reason. Like, yes, I'm trying to think of how to say it better.
Look at the disciples. You know, what was it? Matthew and Mark were known as like the twins of terror or something.
Oh, it was.
They were tough.
It was James and John.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, see, I'm
Brothers of Thunder.
Brothers of Thunder. There you go. So like, okay, I have a tattoo on my arm. It says, "The wicked flee, though no one's pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion." Proverbs 28:1.
I have a shirt that has that on it.
Yeah, cool, man.
That's the reason why I bought this.
I'll have to collect my copyright for it. Right, the Bible. But my favorite, sorry, my favorite imagery of this is, and it might be in the Bible or it might not. I might have just heard somebody say it, and I just really like it. But it's a lion that like takes care of a sheep.
Yeah.
And it talks about like a real man of God is capable of just doing it.
Yeah,
he's a son of thunder. He's a stud, but he keeps himself under wraps.
Controlled.
He has control. It's about being just the absolute man of men without proving it.
So like a man of reserve.
Without wielding it.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one because it's like, well, how's everybody gonna know I'm a man if this guy slaps me in the face and I don't knock him out? Mm-hmm. When in all reality, the real man will just take it and walk away.
Oh, what's the problem here? Like, how can I help you? Is there something you need? That's how I imagine. Like in my head, like I'm getting ready, tensions are rising. Some knucklehead was trying to start something, and I'm
controlled.
Yeah, I'm trained, and I know I could handle this lickety split, but in the moment, guy in your face, spitting in your face or whatever, and you're coming at him from a position of love and meekness, knowing you could handle it, take it out, whatever. Oh, and you're just gonna like, I'm gonna try to help this guy out. Like, what's really going on underneath the surface?
Right. And I mean, as far as work conversations, you got a boss that doesn't like you and wants to give you more overtime. Mm-hmm. I mean, just talking with a coworker when you could be like, "Hey, dummy, what the heck was that?" And, you could just fix it and do nothing. There's so many examples of this, but yeah, it's tough. It's a grind.
Yeah.
And and in my mind, there's always, and most people probably think of the stereotypical old farmer, but like the most masculine guy is the old farmer that never has to get out of his truck and knows exactly what a problem is with the machine or a situation and is just like cool about it, just like stone face. Yeah, this happened to me back in. It's like preparedness. He's just prepared.
Yeah.
No, it just doesn't shake at anything.
And I think,
You know what I mean?
yeah, I think that comes with maturity though, also, because like that can go for anything. As
Like
far as
combine's on fire, and he's like, insurance cover it. You know what I
exactly.
mean? It's
I mean,
like, oh, that guy's tough.
what are you gonna do about it? Honestly, like it's
Control the things.
exactly control what you can control, and then the things that are out of your control, just realizing that it's out of your control and not getting worked up over. Like it could be something like what you're talking about, like if something breaks down, you could either flip out about it and get angry, or calmly fix it if it can be fixed. If not, we'll take care of it. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do, but
Most men have to practice, like, seeing that in the moment.
Emotional control.
Exactly. It's having that emotional intelligence to be able to control yourself in that situation that comes with maturity. Because like if like you're talking about some knucklehead wanting to, start something wherever, and just wanting to start something, like as young men, and I'm sure you guys were the same way. Like you feel like you got something to prove.
Dude, I am that way.
And there's,
24.
and then the older you get, I don't know if it's just because you're being maturity or just because I'm tired and getting old and like I don't have anything. Why am I wanting to prove anything to anybody?
Yeah.
I don't care. Yeah.
What do I care? And I still find like I shouldn't, but there's too many times I find myself caring about what people think about me, and I know I shouldn't. But
Bro,
there's a lot.
if you're worried, your golf game is really good.
But then there's a lot of other times it's like I have absolutely nothing to prove to so and so.
Yeah.
Why would I even care what they think about me in that certain situation? I mean, the younger me would have been trying to go above and beyond, whether it be like to prove myself or to be aggressive or whatever. Like, I got nothing. I'm not going to fight you over something. I don't have to prove how strong I am or how masculine I am in whatever situation. And I think all that comes with maturity.
Yeah.
And like I said, it could be mature because of wisdom and just experience, or just because I'm getting too old and I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
We'll go with A on that one. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like today, man, it was 94 degrees, and I was in the combine, like not like in the cab of the combine, the AC. I'm like in the belly of this thing, working on the motor. Changed fuel filters, wouldn't start. Messed with this thing all day, calling everybody, and I was just in a fit. And we got an older farm hand. He's 74, so he's 50 years older than me. And he's just like, well, I just think that was going to work. I don't know what you're doing. Let's call the dealer. And I'm like, I'm not calling the dealer. You know, I'm not paying $500 for him to come out here right now and do something stupid. But I was on the brink, like, all day. I'm like, I'm gonna pop my top.
See, I find that there's a lot of situations I found myself in similar to that, but like it's God finds a way of humbling you.
100%.
And at least in my job, like there'll be times I'll be on a roll. I'll be fixing stuff left and right. Like I'll walk up, I'll immediately know what's wrong. And or like they're trying to figure out what's going on. And like spending too much time. Like, all right, no, it's this. Why would, I'm like that old guy. Like, why would you think that would work? You know? And then there's other times where I'm like, I'm working on something and then it's something stupid, simple. I'm like, all right, God's knocking me down a peg. I get it.
Oh, well, my humble moment particularly today was when I cracked an injector line and took about 50 PSI straight to the old visionaries. After that, I had to crawl out and down the combine with my eyes closed, kind of peeking out and burning, and get to the eye wash. And as I was in there putting cool water on my face, I was like, all right, if we're gonna get anywhere on this, I better just calm down.
Yeah.
In case you're wondering, I still didn't get it going. I gave up for the day.
Yeah.
I hate giving up.
He'll be there tomorrow.
I don't like to say hate, but I hate giving up. But today I was like, I need to refocus a little bit.
Yeah.
So getting back on to the masculinity side, we talked a little bit about it earlier, about as far as within society. But have you guys noticed that even like within the church recently, there's an emasculation of men within the church?
You think so?
Or I think so.
No names.
Was that sarcasm?
A little bit.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like
We need men on the worship team.
well, I'm talking more about like I know, like the message itself. Like stuff is getting softened and watered down, and there's a lot more of a femininity about like presentation of the word or within roles of the church.
Are you talking about like actual preaching or just like administrative?
Everything, I think.
Everything. Yeah, I mean, yeah. This is a real dance here.
And I'm not trying to overstep as far as
No, yeah. I'm on the right track. Just got to figure out which car of the train I'm gonna be in to unpack this one. In a church, everybody likes to be nice. Obviously, some people aren't nice, and some people don't want to step on people's toes. And I feel like in any situation, whether it be, the workforce or like a church, you can get wrapped up in trying to appease everybody so much to where your headed just gets further and further away, and you're suffering by lack of progress. Mm-hmm. Like, here's our mission. Here's what we want to do. Go. Well, I want to do it this way. Well, I want to do it this way. Well, it's, and like I said, in anything, it's hard to kind of assert yourself in a role. I mean, people love to assert other people in roles, but then tell you how to do it. And I think that kind of, in masculinity, it's like, all right, this is what I'm doing. I know this is right. I'm driven by God, and that's where I'm going to go. Mm-hmm. And I feel like sometimes people will want to say that maybe you're being a little short-sighted. Maybe you're not seeing the whole picture. Yeah. You need to stop and think about others. And it's like, sometimes it's just not that deep.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I guess part of what I'm coming from is like if you think of roles within the church or volunteer opportunities or whatever, a lot of it what you would consider traditionally to be more like on the women's side of things. Like there's a lot of the volunteer opportunities, at least from what I'm seeing nowadays, like a lot of it has to do with what you consider the traditional female roles. Mm-hmm. So like whether it be like cooking or volunteering, and as far as like helping out, like like I said, childcare, children's ministry type stuff, dinners, what?
Nothing. Yeah. I'm down with it.
If you could just edit that out.
Yeah, hey, shameless plug. Nobody's perfect.
No.
Yep.
But I don't know. I feel like the opportunities that have been coming up, not just with our church, I'm talking about like the church as a whole. Men feel disconnected.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of times men don't see roles that they can gravitate to.
Well, and
yeah,
I'm guilty of this. Like when we first started coming to church, it was like, all right, if you're in my house on Saturday night, we're going to church on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And now that we've been going, it's like, we got in at 2:00 last night. Like I got in 2:00 from the hayfield.
Time to slack off a little bit.
I'm probably not gonna make it to Bible study. Well, I got some backstrap thrown out. Maybe I'll make some breakfast. In reality, I didn't wake up till 10.
Well, I think it's crucial.
It's like my wife sometimes is like, hey, it's almost like the roles have reversed. And like growing up, it very much was my mother. Mm-hmm. And it was like fire and brimstone. You're going to church. My dad was like, well, they can go. They can go, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's kind of...
And I just don't know where that disconnect is coming from. This is just my own observations, but I feel like there is a disconnect between men and the church that's keeping them from like achieving their full potential within the church and how they can how they can help reach out, I guess.
An observation that I could just take from this is that thinking that maybe it's because it's a short-sighted failure of all of us men here at the church not holding one another accountable to like it. Like we're supposed to keep God centered and we're supposed to lead our families. And if we're, because I'm guilty of it too, like slacking off,
fear
like
of scrutiny,
over sleeping or something. Like maybe if we take this as serious as we ought to, we would hold our peers, our brothers accountable, and then things might start, like we will start making it priority to have more prominent roles and holding other people accountable and whatnot. But again, I don't know, I'm still learning on what everybody does here at the church and everything. So I haven't really seen full scale of what it used to be or what it's turning into now. I'm starting learning, seeing what everybody's doing. But I think it comes back down to this from what we've learned in our classes and whatnot, like the accountability. We should be like, hey man, where you at? Like, what's going on today? Not, not in the sense of like, from the loving spot, like, I know you're seeking after God's heart. So am I. And sometimes we need a push and a shove to go,
I used to be that guy.
Break those habits.
Yeah.
Like
I'm going to be at your house. You're getting up.
Like an accountability buddy or something like that.
Accountability buddy.
Yeah.
That was the key word
buddy.
at the old banquet there. Yeah.
Luke, did you have something else to add? Like,
It was kind of circling back to like roles of men in the church. Like when I first started going here, I think it was Easter Sunday of 2022. And it took me a year to kind of get really comfortable because the church I was at before, it kind of felt like I was just being talked down to the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, it was kind of more motivational, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, Bill does a really nice job.
Yeah. And I think it was at one of my jobs I work at, they have a cardboard compactor. And I overheard someone talking about like they need to find a way to get rid of cardboard because they had a lot left over from when they had the food pantry. And that was kind of where I started to realize that's an opportunity for me to start helping out here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I offered to I volunteered to take the cardboard up to my job in Peru to just throw it in the baler.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since then, if they've needed me, they just told me at church or texted me.
yeah. And
That's like, that's a good side of it. Like you're doing a good thing.
Right.
You're getting involved. That, yeah.
but if we,
Proud of you, dude.
like, even within like the church, something that I've noticed until recently, if you look at whether it be volunteer opportunities or ministries or groups, like small groups, or whatever, there's a ton that are aimed at women, like a ton. There was hardly anything that was aimed at men. And that was one of the big reasons why I felt kind of led to start up the men's group that we had just started up recently and kind of going after the men's podcast. Cause I feel like they're like going back to the disconnect. There's such a disconnect between men and the church, or there's things that men that we experience on a daily basis that, it would be kind of frowned upon or, taboo maybe to even like talk about within the church.
Yeah.
So
100%.
And I think that's kind of like where there's such a disconnect of like men are just going to shut up and, not say anything and just stay quiet
Just roll with
and roll
take
with
your
it,
punches, roll
or
with
they're
the
just going
flow.
to stop gumming altogether.
Yeah.
So, and I'm hoping that between the men's group and between the podcast that we can kind of like open up a dialogue and get guys feeling like, hey, I'm not the only one going through all this stuff that I'm going through, or not the only one thinking the thoughts that I've been thinking or whatever, and kind of show them that there are opportunities within the church that they can kind of help out, where if there's not at your church, then, maybe this is your sign to step out and get something going.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's a great message to our listeners, because you're exactly right. Talking about what's really going on in our heads throughout a week or what we're dealing with. Yeah, it's not something that a lot of people can really stomach. And, if you do decide to talk about it, then they're like, oh, you need to you need a medication or you need this or you need that. It's always you need. It's like, no, I just need to talk about it.
Yeah.
I just need to feel respected. And I just need to, you just need to be grounded in God.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it.
A lot of times just talking to someone, especially talking to God, it's a lot better than being medicated.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
100%.
So, all right. Well, I think unless you guys have anything else to add,
Join us next time.
I think that's a solid place to go ahead and wrap up the first episode.
Join us next time when we talk about mental health.
Good segue there.
So
kind of dove into a little bit, but
yeah.
I
So
think we're gonna dive deeper.
yeah. So we'll hopefully, keep the conversations going. I like the flow, and if you guys have anything to add, feel free to, any ideas or whatever. But if you guys, listening, if you have a certain topic that you want covered, feel free to shoot us an email or comment or something like that. The email will be on the website as well as the any of the hosting sites that you guys are listening through. So yeah, drop us a line and let us know how we did and if there's anything that you want us to talk about. But until next time, you guys have anything else to add?
Like and subscribe.
All right. Well,
Keep
that's
it
it.
cool.
Thanks.
God bless.
All right.